My grandson whispered, "Grandma, we need to run." What happened at the housewarming shocked me. It was supposed to be a beautiful day. The sky was dressed in a perfect blue, cotton candy clouds drifting lazily above as birds chirped melodies from the nearby oaks. I remember the smell of baked cinnamon rolls still wafting through the kitchen, and the creak of the screen door that never quite shut right. Everything felt like a warm blanket wrapped around a tired soul. That day marked a new chapter in our lives. My daughter Helen had just bought her first home, a quaint two-story nestled at the edge of town. Brick facade, ivy creeping across the corners, and a little garden she'd been planning since she was 12. The whole family was coming. It was a celebration of dreams coming true. My name is Edna, and I'm not one for drama or superstition. I've lived long enough to know that life has its storms, but I've never believed in anything beyond what I could touch, smell, or explain. That belief was shattered the day my grandson leaned into me with trembling lips and whispered, "Grandma, we need to run. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let me take you back to how it all began." Helen was glowing with pride as she walked us through the house. Every room had her touch, paintings she'd picked out with care, handmade curtains, even a reading nook under the stairs, just like she'd always wanted. Her son, Ben, my precious 7-year-old grandson, had his own corner of heaven upstairs. Planets painted on the ceiling, bookshelves filled with dinosaurs and fairy tales. The living room buzzed with laughter and conversation as relatives trickled in. Plates clinked, corks popped, and music floated softly from the record player. I sat on the floral-patterned sofa, sipping lemonade, watching Helen laugh with her cousins. Everything seemed right, until it didn't. Ben had been playing outside with the neighborhood kids. They'd found a ball in the backyard and were kicking it around. Nothing out of the ordinary. But then he came back in, alone, pale as milk, eyes too wide for a child's face. He walked straight up to me, tugged on my sleeve and leaned in. "Grandma, we need to run." I chuckled nervously at first. "Why, sweetheart? Did you lose the ball?" He didn't smile, didn't blink. "They don't want us here," he whispered. Chills. Not the kind you get from a breeze or bad weather. No, this chill crawled under your skin and settled into your bones. "Who doesn't want us here?" I asked, suddenly very aware of the stillness around us. Ben turned his head slowly toward the hallway, the people in the walls. Now let me be clear, I've seen my share of childhood imagination. Ben once convinced his entire kindergarten class that he had a pet dragon. But this wasn't play. There was a solemnness in his voice, the kind only truth carries. I looked around. The room had grown quieter. The music had stopped. I hadn't even noticed. Conversations had thinned to murmurs. A strange unease filled the air, like the house was listening. My daughter was walking toward us, a puzzled look on her face. "Is everything okay?" Before I could answer, the lights flickered, just once, then again, and then they shut off completely. A collective groan went through the guests, followed by a few nervous laughs. Helen made a joke about old wiring and went to check the fuse box. The moment she turned the corner, Ben gripped my hand. "They don't like the lights." I've never been one to panic, but there's something about a child's terror that shakes even the strongest foundations. I held him close and looked toward the hallway where Helen had disappeared. A creak echoed, not from above, not from the floor, from inside the walls. Ben wasn't moving. He was holding his breath. "They're mad now," he whispered. I stood up. My heart thundered in my chest as I called out for Helen. No answer. I handed Ben to my sister, told her to stay put, and followed the dark hallway. Every step I took felt like walking deeper into a memory I didn't want to remember. The fuse box was in the basement. I opened the door, half expecting to see Helen there. She wasn't. What I saw instead made my knees weaken. Footprints, muddy ones, leading down the basement stairs. But the door had been shut and locked. There was no way someone could have gone down without us hearing, unless they were already inside. If you're still with me, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you've ever felt something in your house you couldn't explain. Now, where was I? Ah, yes, the basement. I swallowed my fear and descended. one creaking stair at a time. The air was thick, damp, and smelled faintly of rot. I could hear the faint buzzing of the fuse box, but something else too. A whisper. Not words, just whispers. I reached the bottom and turned toward the fuse panel. As I reached out, the whisper stopped. Click. The lights came back on, and standing behind me, in the reflection of the glass panel, was a man. Only, he wasn't quite a man. His features were wrong, like a smudged painting. Hollow eyes, grinning mouth that didn't belong on a living face. I spun around, no one there. But the footprints were. More of them now. All around me. I ran. I didn't care how old my knees were. I ran up those stairs like fire was licking at my heels. Bursting into the hallway, I found Helen, confused, holding a flashlight. She said she'd never reached the basement. Something had pushed her back. Not someone, something. We gathered everyone, tried to play it off as a glitch in the power. But the air never felt right after that. The laughter didn't return. Guests made excuses and left early. Even the walls seemed to breathe. That night, as we packed up to leave, Ben pulled me aside again. "They live here now," he said. "They woke up because we came." I wanted to dismiss it, to blame it on stress or exhaustion, but I couldn't. Because as we drove away, I saw it. In the window on the second floor, a silhouette, watching, and it waved. Now I ask you, dear listener, what would you do if the house you loved turned out to be something else entirely? If your grandson warned you of danger no one else could see, would you run? Because I did, and I never went back. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment below if this story gave you chills. And tell me, what would you have done? But that's not the end. Weeks later, Helen started calling. Strange things were happening. Doors opening on their own. Cold spots. Whispering at night. And once Ben was found sleepwalking, standing in front of the basement door with muddy feet. I begged her to leave, sell the house, move far away. But Helen, ever the skeptic, wouldn't hear of it until the night she called me crying. "I saw them," she sobbed. "They came out of the walls." And then the line went dead. I haven't heard from her since. Neighbors say the house is abandoned now. Lights flicker at night, though no one's inside. Some say they hear a child's laughter. Others, scratching sounds. I don't know what lives in that house. I don't want to know. But if you ever find yourself at a housewarming and your grandson whispers, "We need to run," listen to him. Because some houses aren't homes. They're traps. And some doors once opened never truly close. Thank you for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to hear more true stories that'll keep you up at night. And remember, the walls have ears, and sometimes they whisper back. Stay safe, and don't ignore the quiet.